It rather fascinates me as to how much the right wing despise, are jealous of, and must criticise Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. The reason why they tend to want to do this, I think, is because there is a stark contrast between the idiot that's in the White House right at the moment and what the Obamas represented when they were in the White House. One can't sit back and ignore the stupidity that is the Trump administration, the bizarre behaviours that they exhibit in terms of raiding and deporting innocent people in the United States, the bizarre comments that they've made in relation to tariffs and their treatment of Canada, the way that they were going to invade certain countries in and around them, including Canada and Greenland, and the way that they're actually approaching Venezuela at the moment and plan to turn over that government. And there are 101 other things that I could talk about in relation to the Trump administration. But they are admired by those guys on Outsiders on Sky News. In fact, any opportunity that these guys can muster up in order to demonstrate their racism and their bias is outstanding. They do it on a regular basis, and they need to be called out for what they do. And that's part of the reason why I have this channel, is to be able to identify. I know some people get a bit annoyed that I keep playing Sky, but there are other channels and there are podcasts on the right wing who do similar sort of presentations. But Sky, because of the numbers of people that watch their podcasts, watch their channel, watch their YouTube videos, are rather extreme. We need to push back, because the gaslighting they do is dangerous. It will impact many, many people and cause people to think in the most irrational and disingenuous way about politics in general, because they are clouded with a bias that needs to be called out when we can. Now, okay, you can accept that I have a bias. I actually am happy to admit mine. I know what mine is. I'm just a humble social worker doing what I can in order to express my views on YouTube. That's all I do. I'm obvious. I'm proclaiming my views. I'm not trying to hide from it. I am a progressive, and I'm a person who I believe acts upon my values and principles in terms of who I am as a social worker who wants social justice and fairness for all. So whenever I see injustice, and whether I see a perspective presented which is based totally on bias, I think it's up to me to call it out, which is what I'm doing here in this particular instance. I'm going to play a clip from Outsiders program, which is the smart way by which Sky News have chosen to define their Sunday program, because they're competing with insiders on the ABC. So they then need to call themselves the Outsiders, of course, because they're smarter than the rest of us. So here they are talking about Michelle Obama, and just listen to the criticism that they offer, because in my view, this is just tainted with racism and a prejudice towards the Obamas, which is about the fact that they were the first black African Americans to be in the White House in that particular position as President and First Lady. And of course, the amazing thing here to me is that they still think that Donald Trump's the greatest thing since sliced bread. We know he's a disaster, but these people can't see it to save their lives. So here they are having this discussion about our friend Michelle Obama.
Speaking of U.S. presidents, you've got one.
Well, yeah, I've got another person here. And I was going to nominate Prince Andrew, but then I realized it's Wally of the Week, not Willie of the Week. But anyway.
And he's no longer a prince.
And he's no longer a prince, that's right. But no, Michelle Obama, have a look at this unbelievable self-pitying interview that she gave.
Now, as I watched this interview, I struggled to understand why it was self-pitying, simply because Michelle was talking about the way she viewed her position and the response that she got from others from being the first African American in the White House.
You said we were all too aware that as a first black couple, we couldn't afford any missteps.
Yeah.
And you also say, as a black woman, I was under a particularly white hot glare. Did you feel that?
For sure. You can't afford to get anything wrong because you didn't get at least until the country came to know us, we didn't get the grace that I think some other families have gotten.
You know, this reminds me of what I loved about the Obama administration. It was all the racial healing. Look, if there was anybody who was given more passes, more grace, more excuses made for absolutely everything, show me who. I mean, you want to talk about first ladies under a white-hot glare of criticism? Look at the very glamorous Melania Trump, who gets nothing but criticism from the press.
I think this analogy tells us everything we need to know. Firstly, Michelle Obama, is an extremely intelligent, extremely articulate person. We cannot say the same about Melania Trump. Michelle Obama is a well-educated lawyer. She is able to articulate ideas in a way which we rarely see from a first lady. Melania Trump struggles to put words together. In fact, on occasions when she had put words together, they happened to be the words of Michelle Obama. So how you can possibly justify the notion that somehow Michelle Obama is getting better treated simply because Melania's not being as well treated, it's just so different. They're just so different. You can't. And and suddenly one of the issues becomes because Melania Trump is objectively more beautiful. What in the hell has that got to do with anything? Does that mean that we don't hear anything of what Melania Trump is saying? We don't see what she's doing. We have no idea as to any of the sort of undercover activities that a first lady, is supposed to be doing. We don't see any of that. But we certainly saw a lot of it with Michelle Obama in terms of her efforts to be able to deal with obesity in the United States. The irony is that Melania Trump was dealing with abuse online, and her husband is the worst possible abuser online that you can imagine. But this is an issue that she was trying to confront. She failed miserably, whereas at least Michelle Obama was attempting to do what she thought was the right thing in terms of dealing with obesity in the US. So there's a stark difference between the two, but these guys don't seem to understand that they were different for a whole lot of reasons. And they, as a result of that, they received different sorts of coverage.
She was given an absolute dream run, and for her to pretend that there was, racism or whatever behind how she was treated as.
Now, the other thing about this racism that really pisses me off is that it is Michelle Obama and Barack Obama's view of how they were treated. It is not up for us, for them, for anybody else to say that it was wrong or that they had issues with it or they had a certain perspective that should not be countenanced. It is wrong for us to be able to say your experiences are wrong. It's like saying to somebody who's in a domestic violence relationship, well, he just cares about you, even though he's beating the shit out of you. He still just cares about you. This is just where your perspective of that relationship is completely irrelevant. Just like these guys' perspective of what was happening with Michelle and Barack Obama is completely irrelevant. She's just talking about her experiences and how she saw it. But these morons cannot, for whatever reason, just cannot understand that.
The first lady and how she and Barack were treated as the first couple. That is just, again, it's the same divisive nonsense that they peddled for all 8 years of that horrific presidency.
We talked about gaslighting before. That is weapon.
Well, I think this is a classic. This is Rita Panahi, who is the gaslighting expert in the world, telling us about someone else's version of gaslighting. You've got to be kidding, Rita. You are a piece of work. And this is projection, actually, I would think.
Grade gaslighting. That couple got nothing but a collective tongue bath from the media for 8 years. It was nothing but endless adulation. If there was a word of criticism for, say, a Fox News or some conservative pundit, all the leftist media would rally around them and present it as grossly unfair. The man got a Nobel Peace Prize for being elected. I mean, really. And
You're an idiot. Seriously, you are an idiot.
she got every single magazine cover. You talked about Melania, who is obviously, objectively a beautiful woman. She can't get on the front cover of Vogue.
Yeah, because she's an idiot. And she's married to an idiot. And they don't have anything intellectual to offer. Now, Obama did many things that were wrong, in my view. Using drones in Afghanistan, the number of deaths that were caused by those drones is just one example of something he did that I think was totally inappropriate and wrong. And he did probably other things too. But when you compare the intellectual capacity of Obama to work through issues and Trump's knee-jerk reaction to bloody everything, reaction to a video that he saw that was put out by the Ottawa governor in Canada, and then decides he's going to increase tariffs and shit like that. That sort of stuff would never happen with Obama. He didn't respond to things in that way. He sought advice. He figured out that there were people in the room that had more knowledge and information than he did. His decision ability or decision making was about listening to them. That's not Trump. Trump's a clown. We all know it. These guys must know it. They're just refusing to admit to it. And when they're confronted by someone like Obama, they get their knickers in a knot because they resent greatly the fact that there was an African American, a coloured person, who was president of the United States, who was well-educated, articulated, everything these people stand against, everything. And they must resent that because they are simply racist. It's the only way we can describe them. That's who they are, that's the policy, that's the ideas that they present, and that's the criticism that they would offer of someone like Michelle and Obama and Michelle's... of Barack Obama and Michelle. So what do you think? I'd like you to provide a comment below. Let us know what you think about their attitude towards the Obamas and the comparison, I think, that sits between them and the Trumps, basically. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I look forward to hearing from you.